it's obvious. The government's failed us in a lot of ways.
Right. You can, look, it would take someone who is extremely resourceful,
yes,
manipulative, and someone that is super humble and super appreciative. I mean, you would have to change your mindset so fundamentally. And the truth is, by the time you get out of prison, you're probably pretty fucked up.
Dude, I had a dude made a statement and said that I hit him, that I punched him.
Right.
A halfway house staff. Well, I cussed at him a little bit because he took my phone. Everybody had smartphones.
You're right.
Everybody. He took mine. And he showed me where they put the rest of the phones. And we came out of there and I was cussing him. I was mad. Took my brand new phone. And
so were you not allowed to have it when you were there?
No. The policy was that you could have a phone that couldn't get internet.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like stupid. It's just stupid. It's like,
it is.
Just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why? You're going to try to get us back in the community, but you're not going to give us any access to be able to do it.
Right. I can't have my laptop. I can't have a smartphone or an iPhone or a cell phone or smart, whatever you want to call it. I can't have any of that stuff. I can't have access to this. It's the halfway house is worse than being in prison. To me, it was more. They were on me more.
If you're not mentally prepared for it,
right,
you're right. Because it's them giving you enough rope to hang yourself,
right,
is what they're doing. It's a test, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guy accused me of hitting him. So I get called up there by the head of the halfway house. I don't know what they're called. So for the next 10 hours, I'm like, shit, I'm going back to jail because this son of a bitch lied on me.
Yeah. No doubt.
And I stood there bugging out. 12, 15 hours later, within 24 hours, he recanted his statement. Got to keep working there the whole rest of the time, everything. I'm like, you tried to get me sent back to prison. You get to keep your fucking job?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
probably because there was a camera, probably because somebody else wouldn't back up a statement. Not because he felt bad, but probably just because there was a reason he recanted his statement. Maybe, where'd you get hit? Where's it on the camera? Where were you standing? Oh, okay, then the camera should have gotten. Or we talked to so-and-so. He said he didn't hit you. Yeah. Or, you know what I'm saying? It's like... It is. It's a fucked up situation.
He had to. But anyway, that's the kind of people we have to deal with in there. And it's the same way in prison. Guards are the same way. I mean, they know that you're at a disadvantage. They have almost complete power over you, so they take advantage of that. And they use it. Whatever they want to do to you, they can pretty much do.
Yeah. So,
but you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people in there that have tried to go through that change of mind like you and I have had. Because obviously you went through it too. You got in there and was, I can't do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
Let me live different. When you talk about the resourcefulness to be able to get their plan together and everything else, they might be able to do that, but the resources aren't really there for them to do that.
All right.
You can't even get a resume typed up in Word document or anything. You got to use a typewriter and put it on paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to learn anything besides plumbing or construction, you're just shit out of luck. You can't get any of that stuff. So, but I believe that prison is a place that you're taking a time out. And if you're going to be able to get through to somebody and help them change their lives, that's the place to be able to do it because their life's pretty much on pause.
Yeah.
So when I was in RDAP and I helped my buddy Squirrel out and that was when the light went on for me. And I said, I want to help these people that are in there that want to do better, but they don't really have the resources to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So when I got out, almost immediately when I got out, I started brainstorming about doing a reentry organization specifically for the feds. I took about a month off when I first got out and just kind of got acclimated. I was fortunate enough. My parents were like, come stay with us and we'll try this again, whatever. And so I took a minute. And I went up to a temp agency, I remember, because they said, yeah, we got a job. It's okay that you got a felony. We'll get you into the job and everything. I get up there and they pull up my background and they're like, oh no, we can't hire you. I was like, okay, well, that's fair enough. They were nice about it and everything. So I go to drive away and they called me and they said, you need to call this person at the Justice Resource Center. And said they work in a reentry division. As soon as I heard reentry, I was like, really? Okay. So I called. I didn't get that person. I got another person that her and I sit there on the phone for like 45 minutes talking about reentry stuff. And that led me down. She ended up getting me a job, but that led me down the path and introduced me to the whole reentry and recovery community up there in Asheville.
Right.
And she told me, she said, you need to become a peer support specialist. And without even asking what it was, I knew what it was. And she told me it's somebody who uses their lived experience to be able to help others who are struggling with, either substance abuse or mental health challenges or whatever. I came up with the idea of a phoenix one day when I was walking around the track in prison, and I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be like a phoenix. I've blown 45 years of my life up. I want to rise up out of these ashes and do something with myself.
Hey, I wanted to let you guys know that I have a Patreon account. If you're interested in joining the Patreon account, it's got 3 tiers. The top tier, you actually get a different con man painting every single month. If you're already joined and you're already supporting me, I really appreciate that. If you haven't joined yet and you're interested in joining, I'm going to leave the contact information for Patreon in the description. Thank you very much for watching the video. Back to the video.
I came up with the Phoenix idea. I had these 5 or 6 guys that I still talk to on the inside. So I started up a newsletter and just started working on putting the pieces together. I don't know anything about business. I don't know anything about any of it. So it's taken a lot longer than it would for somebody else. But I've been out for 2 years, June 26th, and I've been working on this since I've been out. It's the longest project that I've ever worked on. It's the hardest that I've ever worked on anything. But I feel like,
and it's not, bro. That's not like what you're talking about doing is not easy.
No,
you know what I'm saying? It's not like it's a lot of struggle with very little payoff. You know what I'm saying? Like, until you reach that finish line, and even then it'll be a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot going on right now, so I'm wore out. But I know that if I push to the end of this, it's going to work.
Right,
it's going to. There's a huge gap. I mean, we had a book at Beckley that was like that thick of reentry resources. I sent out like 20 letters. You know how many I got back? 0. Everything they've got is outdated. Everything that they've got is broken. And they really don't care.
No, they're not concerned about it.
Did you guys have the computers? They had these reentry computers. You could go to the library, you get on this reentry computer, and you could pull up supposedly resources. None of them are hooked to the internet.
Yeah.
So none of them are updated. It's useless. So what are the people doing there that really want to try to do something? If you're good and resourceful, you can find resources, but it'd be a lot better if they were available to them.
Well, what's interesting now because of the COVID and stuff, like even all the stuff that is you could kind of manipulate to help you in some way, like getting a resume or something.
Yep.
That none of that's available now.
No.
So now you're in even a worse position to get out of prison. Yep. Now you're really screwed. And then the halfway house, like, okay, how much time do I get in halfway house? People are like, oh, it's great. You get to work and live there for free. They're taking 30% of what I make.
Yep.
They're plus you're paying your taxes. So you're basically working for less than half.
Yeah. Because they take that 30% off your gross, not
right. Right. So I'm working for less than half. So if I'm making, whatever, you're making $15 an hour, you're working for about $6 an hour, $7 an hour if you're lucky. And so, you're trying to save that. You're trying to drive like even after I got a vehicle, they wouldn't let me park it in the parking lot. That took another 2 weeks. So I had to have my buddy keep my vehicle at his gym for a couple weeks. Like a vehicle sitting in the parking lot for 2 weeks. Do you think that's not an opportunity for somebody to steal the vehicle? I have PIP. I don't have liability. My car gets stolen, I'm done. It's not financed. I couldn't get financing because I wasn't allowed to get financing because I had to get permission to get financing. And they said, no, you can't get financing. You're in the halfway house. We're not allowing you to get financing. How am I supposed to buy a vehicle? Ask your family. My family's not helping me. They don't have money to help their convict brother who just got out of prison and lives in a halfway house. Like who would help me?
Right.
Like where are you going to stay? Well, you could stay with your mother. My mother lives in a retirement community. I can't stay with my mother. Like there are, you know what I'm saying? Like I was in a really bad spot. I got lucky that an ex-girlfriend took pity on me and said, you can live in my spare room. And then when I was like, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to you. She was like, no, you'd be helping me. You'd be helping me. It's like, stop. Like, I'm not helping you. Like, I'm paying you like $600 a month and you're throwing in food. I'm going to eat you out of that 600 right there and fucking tea it.
Right.
It got so bad. She finally came to me after a month or two and she's like, listen, I wasn't anticipating coffee. you drink a lot of coffee. And I was like, oh, man. I was like, well, how much? I'll pay it. But it was the same thing. When my car broke down, I'm on probation. My car broke down. I live like 4 miles to a bus stop. I'm not saying I can't walk that in a mile.
Right.
I could take I could take an hour and walk that. I could get dropped off there and walk back. That's a couple hours, assuming the buses run on time. I could drive the bus for another hour and a half to where I worked. That's fine. I could spend an extra 5 hours a day so that I could go work 8 hours. I could do that. You're right. It's not impossible. But I'll tell you what it doesn't do. It doesn't make me not want to commit fraud. So the fact is, when my vehicle broke down and I went to my probation officer and I had $1,000 that I could get a new vehicle for, she said, you can't finance anything. And I was like, why? She said, well, you have a financial crime and we don't feel comfortable letting you finance anything. And I was like, I said, I don't have a car. She's always figure something out. I said, I don't have anything to figure out. My figuring it out is let me go buy a brand new vehicle, which I can afford because I have the pay stubs for. And luckily, I didn't listen to you people. And I went and got 3 credit cards when I was in the halfway house, which I got secured credit cards because I knew this moment was going to come someday.
Right. Sure.
Said, so luckily, I didn't listen to you, and I can do it, but you have to give me permission. We argued for 2 weeks before she finally said, I'll let you spend $300 a month on a new vehicle. I said, then I'll have to get a used vehicle. She said, then you get a used vehicle. I said, but don't you understand? If anything goes wrong with the used vehicle, I don't have the money to pay for the repairs. If I get a new vehicle, I at least get a bumper-to-bumper warranty. Yeah. I'm not trying to get a brand new Lexus or a Lamborghini or something or a Porsche. I'm trying to get the cheapest bumper-to-bumper I could get, which was my Jeep.
Right.
And so literally, when I came back, I was allowed to spend $300. I spent $375. She was furious. And I was like, and I was just gambling that she wasn't going to violate me for an extra $75. But she could have. She could have.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying everything is against you.
Yeah. I mean, you can't people don't want to rent to you if you've got felonies.
Oh, yeah.
That list that they put out in prison of all these companies that hire felons, yeah, they'll hire a felon if it's 7, 10, 15 years old, but they're not hiring you straight out of prison. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, well, look, I mean, it's obvious. The government's failed us in a lot of ways.
Right. You can, look, here's the problem. It's that could you make it? You could make it, but it would take someone who is extremely resourceful,
yes,
manipulative, and someone that is super humble and super appreciative. I mean, you would have to change your mindset so fundamentally. And the truth is, by the time you get out of prison, you're probably pretty fucked up. Hey, if you guys didn't know, I also do paintings, and if you're interested in a painting, I'm going to leave my contact information in the description beneath the video. Back to the video.
I mean, there's definitely some of that, yeah.
Right. So if you haven't had some kind of a life-altering experience inside prison to get your head right, you got a long road ahead of you, and probably you're just going to get reincarcerated.
I mean, the way it works now, you almost have to be like the perfect candidate to turn your life around to be able to really do it.
Right.
All those things you said: resourceful, smart, driven, humble. All those things have to be there. But there's a lot of people that are falling through the cracks just because it's so freaking hard to do.
Not a lot of people, bro. It's what is recidivism? That's a massive. That's
60,
not
70.
Not cracks. That's people falling into a swimming pool. Then there's it's not like a little. It's really a few people. The people that are falling through the cracks are the ones that are succeeding. Because almost nobody succeeds.
Right.
If you look at recidivism, it's fucking outrageous.
It's nuts. Absolutely, it is.
And I've seen people who have gotten out who seemed like they were going to do the right thing. They were going to do the right thing, and then 1 or 2 things go wrong, and the next thing you know, they're in such a jam. And what do? They rob a bank, or they do something like that. I know guys that robbed banks while they were in the halfway house.
Yeah,
I know guys within a few months.
Yeah, I've heard of that as well.
Guys, Jess and I knew a guy that literally was telling people in the halfway house that he was going to do heroin. He's like, I don't know how long I'll be on supervised release. He is, because I'm going to go back to heroin. I mean, I love it, and I this and I that. He died a year later. She got notified by a mutual friend that said, hey, remember so-and-so? Yeah, boom, here's his obituary. it's, nobody ever talked to him.
Right.
He got in trouble for like stealing, using company credit card. He ended up getting like 14 months or something ridiculous. Didn't go to RDAP, didn't get this, didn't get that. Got 3 months of halfway house, put him back home. He's back on fucking heroin. Boom, he's dead.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's the BOP's fault or anybody's fault but his own, but I'm saying you could have certainly. And by the way, this guy, he was an engineer. So he made over $100 and something $1,000 a year. He had it's not like he was a guy that didn't contribute a lot to society. This was an upstanding guy.
Yeah.
I've met guys from NASA. I've met lawyers. I've met doctors. I've met all kinds of super smart guys that end up in federal prison because they did something slightly stupid that in another country would have probably just gotten you probation.
Yeah.
Instead, they get 5 years, 10 years. They get back out. Everybody's left them. It's over. They're rebuilding their whole life.
Yeah. Got to rebuild your whole life. I mean, and it's true. I think what I meant was you've got to. There's a good portion of them now, I think, that they don't know any other way.
Yeah.
So you have to start at a fundamental level of retraining them how to live.
Yeah.
And I think I never want to leave anybody behind, but certainly there's some people in there that are trying a little harder than others. You know what I mean? They're really trying to do something with themselves while they're in there. And then you got others that they jump in there and they jump straight into the dope game in there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that haven't been in prison, they don't understand. It's just like in society in there. It's just like it is out here. You can't have booze unless you can get it smuggled in,
Yeah.
Those kind of things. But it's just a regular society. So people jump into it there. They never leave that. They're not ready to move on from that mindset, I guess is what I'm getting at. So, but the people that are, they're still hard pressed for resources. They're hard pressed there is no planning going into them getting out.
Yeah.
Like you said, the halfway house doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. The advice at the halfway house and my probation officer, my advice to, reacclimating myself to society was, you're a smart guy. You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
Like, okay, yeah, and I'll admit I'm probably smarter than the average bear, but what about the average bear?
What about the average bear?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you like? And luckily for me, I don't think much about that because I'm solely thinking about myself. But now that things are going okay, now it's like, well, no wonder the average guy keeps coming back.
And that's why
you're saying figure it out.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. My probation officer was awesome. She came out the first time. She told me, she said, look, I'm not here to try to set you up. I'm not going to try to surprise you and trap you unless you give me a reason to. I want to see you succeed. And by every count, her and I had a great relationship all the way through it. Right. So I think and I've dealt with state probation officers too. And there seemed to be a little bit of a difference there, to me. But so anyway, while I was in RDAP, and I was able to help people. I was actually a senior guide through the last 3 months, and then they asked me to stay over as a mentor and teach classes. So I stayed over and taught classes, and that was just what I had a passion for. I always had a problem with a regular job before in a corporation or something, trying to make somebody else rich. Here's something I can do and actually contribute to society and help. So let me look at going that path. I got out. I got a job at some plastic injection molding, whatnot. Worked on getting my peer support specialist. Did the work. Went and interned for Sunrise Community for Recovery and Wellness, which is where I work now, and did some volunteer work for them, and got an opportunity to go to work full time for them. And I tell you what, the difference that it made when I went from that corporate, whatever job to this job was monumental. I mean, it was. You're not going to make somebody rich now. You're going to try to help people.
Right.
And that just made me happy in a way that I'd never had before. And that fueled me just pushing harder on Phoenix because I want to be able to help the guys in there. And I know enough about how the system works to possibly be able to really do that. So I brainstormed with a bunch of people. I've talked to a lot of people on Facebook and connected with groups, from people from FAM and a couple of the other groups that are out there. And I've got a newsletter that goes in to the federal prison. But the project that I'm really excited about is Sunrise is the company that I work for. They're a peer-led organization, which means that it's all peer support specialists that run it.
Right.
It's all people with this lived experience. Okay. So the person who's struggling, they're able to relate to that person because they've kind of been there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not somebody with a doctorate degree that's never been struggled for anything telling them what's what, and they're not going to believe them. So you get a better chance to connect with them. There are these peer-led organizations all over the country. So what I'm working on doing is building a database of peer-led organizations and the contacts with the people there in every city that's got a halfway house.
Right.
So wherever there's a halfway house, I'm in contact with these guys in prison. I can put them in touch with a person with a phone number at this peer-led organization when they get to the halfway house. Okay. Then they've got a local access to the resources and everything. They've got somebody that they can connect with and understand because they've been there. They'll know about jobs. They'll know about all the resources that are available to them.
Right.
Basically what the halfway house is supposed to be doing, but they don't.
Yeah.
So it's plugging them into that network. And the other big thing that it does is, you know, when you get out of prison, you're like, okay, what do I got to do now? A lot of people just fall back to their old friends, their old ways, which puts them right back in the same thing.
Yeah.
They get out and get introduced to this kind of organization. It's people that truly care. They're in recovery too. They're going to invite you to go do things. They're going to replace that social element as well in a lot of cases, you know, not every time.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, they're going to replace that social community that you had, and that's going to make it getting down that path so much easier.
Right.
So that's the big thing that I'm pushing on the project now. But there's so much more. I mean, I've talked to a lot of life coaches out there on Facebook. There's some good groups for those. I had a great response for people who were willing to volunteer their time to have conversations with inmates that were still in prison and help them with life coaching and planning what they were going to do when they get out. Mm-hmm. So we've got that. I've got a college professor that I know who's willing to help me write some correspondence courses, not necessarily for a degree, just to be able to get the knowledge of how to do basic bookkeeping for a business.
Right.
Because that's one of the things about people that are in prison as well is they're not really of an employee mindset.
Yeah.
They're more wanting to go work for themselves, at least a lot of them.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people came to me, can you help me write this business plan?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But they just don't have the knowledge to be able to do it.
That's actually a hustle in there. I know guys that were charging guys like $100, $100, $200 to write a business plan. I was like, what are you doing, bro?
Everybody's hustling in there, aren't they?
What are you doing? Everybody they listen to every business plan that somebody came. They go, man, that is a good idea. That's a good idea. And they go, man, can you write up a business plan? They go, yeah, man, it's like $100. Give me $100 in commissary or 100. You know, you do one or two of those a month, and it was basically his business plan was the same basic thing over and over. It was just horrible. People are just horrible, just preying on people.
Oh yeah, well, you're in there with a bunch of criminals.
Exactly.
What do you expect? So. But I got a ton of ideas, you know, for what can be done with this thing. But I think the big thing is just I try to catch people about a year before they get out or so.
Yeah.
And get them connected with resources in their area and then start helping them develop a plan, you know. But a little bit down the road, really, the way I sum it up the best is I want to revolutionize rehabilitation in prison.
Right.
I want to be able to offer them the resources they need to be able to be successful when they get out.
Yeah, and you would have to. The easiest thing, one of the things would be good is to actually be able to go in like once a year or something to multiple prisons and kind of give a presentation or explain. Like that'd be the perfect thing to try and get to them so that they know it's available because the staff's not going to help. But, you know, if they were allow you to come in and have that conversation. And the other thing is, you know what I mean, guys? So luckily in Florida, they have what's called the flow bus. And that is where they allow you to get your driver's license. Do you know how many guys I know that were getting out of prison that you're going to the halfway house and you don't have an ID, you don't have a driver's license. And I was like, why didn't you go to the flow bus? Bro, I did. I put in for it twice and they canceled at the last minute this time and the other one was full. And then I owed this much money on back parking tickets. So I had to pay that off. Well, that was $800 and I couldn't get it paid off. So I couldn't get my driver's license. I could get an ID, and it was like you would think that they would have something set up. The federal government would have something set up to say, listen, we're quashing this guy's $800. Right. He's been locked up 12 years. Drop it. Like, let's get them a driver's license. Let's get them that. Like, it's all on you.
It's all on you.
And I get it. I get that it's your fault that you're there, and I get that whole thing. But the truth is that these are guys a lot of these guys have never had a job. They don't know how to fill out paperwork. The anxiety is overwhelming, and the staff doesn't want to help. And so they get out. There's no help. They feel more comfortable going to a drug deal than they do filling out paperwork to try and get a fucking driver's license.
Yep.
Somebody needs to be able to help.
It leaves them hopeless.
Right.
I mean, it leaves them hopeless, and that's
right. It's just a cycle.
Yeah, it's like me. I was hopeless. I turned to crime to solve my problems. That's what people are going to continue to do unless you give them some kind of avenue to be able to reenter society.
Right.
You know, and it was tempting for me to jump in there and jump into the legal fight of, squashing mandatory minimums and conditions in jail and everything like that. Look, there's a lot smarter people that are doing that than me, and I'm going to leave that to them. This is a problem that I see that I can do something about,
right?
And that's what that's my jam. It makes me happy to do that because I'm able to connect with guys that are where I used to be. They want to get where I am now. Okay, if you want to get where I am now, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to work harder at it than you're going to.
Yeah, I was just thinking that a lot of these guys they'll take advantage. They'll be like, "Oh, well, can you do this? Basically, they want you to give. No,
or even just take up your time to talk to you.
Yeah,
because when you're outside communications a big deal. Yeah. So even just having somebody to talk to would be a big thing to them. But I'm working on some kind of vetting kind of things, to decide who really wants to change. You got to show me. That you're really trying to do this before I'm going to dump a bunch of effort into. But if you do that, I'll give you everything I got.
Right.
I've got a person that I've helped out in Salt Lake City. They had the First Step Act credits refigured. Okay. She was in a halfway house, and at 2:00 in the afternoon, they said, your time has been recalculated. You have to be out of here by 4:00. Where am I going to go?
They don't give a shit.
We don't care, but you can't be here at 4:00.
Yeah.
So her and I worked a good bit that night, and we got her a hotel room.
Yeah.
So that she'd have somewhere to stay, and then we started working on trying to get her a plan together. So, if that's the kind of organization I want Phoenix to be. My newsletter is completely interactive. I invite everybody that gets the newsletter. Email me back.
Right.
We'll start a dialogue as much as we can, and several people have done that. That's showing me that you're really trying to do something.
Right.
So, but going back in there or going in there and doing motivational speaking and stuff, I would love to do that. I'm waiting on the time limit before I can, but that's something that I'll have in the works coming up. So I'm excited about it. It's
let me know.
Completing that book was a big deal, and I got something completed. Now I want to get this all the way there and get it completed and be able to change some people's lives.
Hey, I appreciate it. And if you liked the video, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Leave me a comment and I will try and respond back to you. And check out the Resource Center, and we will put the Phoenix Resource Center and all of his stuff in the description, his links in the description. And I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys.